Hello, and welcome back to Let's Play I Wanna Be The Barrage. Last time, I went to the first area of the game, and I went up against all of Rumia's not too interesting, not very challenging danmaku attacks. Sorry, Kill. Things are about to get a lot more interesting as we move on to stage 2 of this game. So after defeating the boss stage, the portal to the next stage opens up. And you see there's a different tile set, for all the meaning that has, and we've got our next boss, Kisume, everyone's favorite bucket girl. So her first stage is pretty simple. She just rains down pellets upon you, and that's about it. Just gotta dodge them, nothing more to it, except there's a trick. She slowly starts to move towards you about halfway through the duration of the attack. And if you're not expecting it, then you're probably not going to notice the movement, and you're going to die before you even really know what's going on. But once you know she's going to move, it's easy to move out of the way in time, and to just lead her around the outside of the arena until the attack ends. Really nothing too difficult. Now Kisume is going to take this idea and make it much more interesting by moving around the outside edge of the arena and spawning tons and tons and tons of bullets as she does. These bullets sort of lazily drift around once they spawn. Now the trick here is to get into one of the quiet quadrants of the screen and hang out there and dodge the bullets when you have more room. You have to kind of read where Kisume is going and quickly read the bullets on the screen so that you can reposition yourself properly when she begins to move. There, I failed to reposition myself when I should have, and that wasn't the best quadrant to stay in, but I made it work. This stage will really drill into you some of the more subtle aspects of aerial moving. Some of the major points of that are that when you want to dodge in the air, it's much easier to dodge going straight up or going straight down, since you can jump straight up or fall straight down easily. Now in this stage, Kisume gets sick of her little ring of bullets and gives it to you. And it totally sucks. Because this ring will spawn bullets everywhere that home in on your position. And the ring moves when you do, and it's constantly spawning bullets. There's not much of a chance to get away from the bullets that it spawns. So the trick of sorts that I use on this stage is to start at the top of the screen. And the reason for that is simple. The way the bullets spawn and Kisume's large red rings force you to move around the outside edge of the screen. And as I hope is obvious, it's much easier to dodge when you're on the ground and moving left or right. Since on the ground you can walk left or right to dodge straight left or right. And you can't do this in the air. So what I start in the air and get one of the most difficult portions of the stage out of the way first. It's nice when stages let you do this, but it's not always the case, as we'll see a bit later in this stage. So this is kind of the opposite of what we just saw. This time Kisume gives you one of her red rings instead of the black ring. And as you see, if you're not inside the ring, those red bubbles are going to kill you. There's really not much question about that. Of course, if you're inside the ring, the white popcorn bullets are probably going to kill you anyway. Oh, and you gotta get inside the ring quickly or you're going to die. So, the real trick to this stage is to memorize the path that the red ring follows around the screen. You can't really respond to the movement of the red ring and the random popcorn bullets at the same time. If nothing else, without understanding where the ring is going to move next, you can't zone yourself in it properly to leave yourself space for dodging the popcorn bullets that you're going to need. But if you can do that, then you get to the end where it just stops for a while, which is a bit odd. It's yet another attack that I think feels a bit unfinished, and there are quite a few of those in this game, which is a shame because I think that some of the more completed attacks are really quite nice. So this is probably Kisume's hardest attack, doesn't look too special now, but it gets very dense and chaotic, especially when Kisume starts moving around the screen. And when she moves around the screen, she carries the large red ring with her. And since all of the bullets spawn from this ring, she also carries the spawn points of the bullets with her. And this is actually a trick that you need to use to have any hope of surviving in the stage. Because she carries the spawn points with her, it means that the bullet density in front of her in the direction she's moving is going to be less dense than it is going to be anywhere else inside the ring. Thus, it's important to try and stay in front of Kisume's direction of movement at all times. Granted, this doesn't exactly make the stage easy. In fact, it's still very difficult to dodge all the bullets, and it's still going to be very dense, even if you stay in the proper area. But it makes it possible. And really, that's all you can ask for this game. And that's all this game is really interested in giving you. Levels that are possible. And then if you survive this stage long enough, then you're granted a bit of a respite in the floor. Because when Kisume returns to the floor, she doesn't really leave it until the attack ends. And as we discussed earlier, it is easy to dodge left and right on the floor. Much easier than it is to dodge in the air. So thankfully, that's another attack where you can get the hardest part out of the way first. Now, her last regular attack is kind of unique, kind of odd. You have to dodge these blue bubbles, which probably seems obvious, but the kicker is that if you do get hit by them, you don't actually die, as I'll demonstrate in a moment. Instead, they spawn turrets. The goal is to get hit by as few of them as possible, and I actually had an extremely good run there. If you get hit by too many, you're going to die, and there's really no question about that. And I have no idea what's up with that last wave. Again, an attack that seems kind of unfinished. Whatever. Let's move on to the boss stage. This isn't exactly the greatest stage in the game, and I can see it being the stopping point for many players. The first section is kind of an extended riddle, if you want to use the term generously, where you just need to figure out whether you want to be on the inside or outside of the big ring she creates. If you're on the outside of the first ring, she's going to kill you. So you gotta start on the inside and fall down through the ring after it spawns. I use the hash marks on the ground to place myself in the proper area to get out of the first ring and to get into the second one when the time comes. And with that, the interesting part of this attack ends. And we get to sit here in the corner for a full minute, watching as pretty, I guess, bullet patterns fly around and do absolutely nothing to harm us. And this is the most egregious example of this problem that comes up in this game. And that's boring, trivial, even completely and utterly trivial sections of attacks that last for a very long time and that precede much more difficult sections of the attack. Now, I'm not one who's going to complain about the most difficult section of an attack or level being at the end. I think that's proper video game design, and it creates a climax and a build-up to the level that is really satisfying when you complete it. But the trick is that you've got to keep the player engaged up until the climax happens. If the player is bored and then there's a sudden climax, it's really not good. Here, there's finally a climax that happens, and it's when Kisume slows down the screen and vomits bullets all over the place for another full minute. And you know what? This part of the attack is actually a lot of fun. It's very random, and the shallow angles that the bullets travel in, combined with the density of the bullets, actually makes it quite difficult to dodge and read. Furthermore, it lasts for fucking ever. I said it lasts a minute. That might not seem long, but when you're playing this game, that's a fucking eternity. And it gives a lot of time to screw up, a lot of time for difficult bullet patterns to appear in this dense wave. Also, you may notice that the spirals came back, and for a short while that limits your movement. But as long as you stay in the corner in the proper area, it's not a big deal. Finally, at the end of the attack, I have a bullshit wall that I have to avoid, but I managed to slip through. Thankfully. I wouldn't want to sit through all the boring parts of that again, and I don't think most players would. Anyway, that's it for this stage. See you next time!